Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we have an incredible game number 3 coming up for you here as I put the finishing touches on this tweet. The map is going to be Entombed Valley. Cross positions will be the order of the day. And we have got the Green Terran players spawning in the bottom left-hand position from Karante Esports. Ladies and gentlemen, we have LucifroN. And over here in the top right-hand position, sponsored by the Republic of Gamers, taking a very convincing win in game number 1 off of a great 3-base timing on Ohana that caught his opponent before the EMPs were effective. But losing game number 2, not able to get back from the early game harass on Daybreak. Can he do it in game 3? We have Elfi. And hello to everybody from Spain who's in the chat. I can see an eruption of what I assume to be Spanish everywhere. Obviously, the Spanish Armada, well loved and adored in Spain. You guys just have good sports people bloody everywhere. Fernando Alonso in Formula 1, Rafael Nadal in tennis. Every time I switch on the TV for anything, there's always some really good Spanish guy doing something, and it looks like StarCraft can't even escape from that either. Vortex has gone up 2-0 against Stefano, and he will be meeting in round number 2 the winner of this series. And oh so amusingly, if LucifroN manages to win this, we're going to see a LucifroN Vortex showdown in round 2 of the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice Qualifier. So let's see if that ends up happening. So in the meantime, things are starting fairly normally so far. Once again, we have the probe being as annoying as possible against the supply depot, but it looks like the barracks will finish just in time. No, actually pulling the SCV once again. LucifroN really should build the supply depot for 1 extra second before finishing off the barracks, because this probe has delayed the barracks by 3 to 5 seconds in both game numbers 2 and 3 so far. And LucifroN is desperately trying to get this SCV back into his main base, finally able to do so. Is he considering swapping it out? If that SCV goes to this side of the supply depot right now, technically the probe could just about kill it off, but it looks like he's going to be okay. And we have got a very quick command center after that 1 Rex coming out from LucifroN. So no gas once again. Elfi can probably assume that LucifroN is going for some sort of macro strategy, because the first 2 games were played out that way, but he can't be 100% sure, so he still has to be diligent with his scouting. Notice he's going up. Oh, I love this. Beautiful stuff here, wanting to make sure that a second barracks is not proxied. I think that really tells you everything you need to know. Elfi, a very high-level player, he knows that they are tied up 1-1 in very, very exciting macro games as it currently stands. And that a quick cheese game in game number 3 is not out of the question to win the series. We've seen it time and time again in many different tournaments. Of course, a lot in GSL as well, where a player picks a good strategic time to finish a very, very quick game and try and take an opponent out. But that's not going to be happening in game number 3. Elfi is going to be watching for any potential early game aggression, and LucifroN is doing the exact opposite with the 3rd command center very, very early, going down once again. We see the bunker down on the low ground, and that, unless there are some really sick mind games being played here, this should tell Elfi that LucifroN at the very least is taking an early 2nd command center. Still no gas from our Terran player, of course. As we go up to 3 barracks, he wants to make sure that if there is some sort of all-in coming out from Elfi in this particular game, since admittedly he has seen the Nexus, but let's say, for example, we add it to something crazy like a 4-gate Nexus cancel or something like that, getting those 3 barracks out early will allow you to get more in a couple more bunkers and be able to hold something like that off, assuming your micro is decent. And of course, LucifroN's is top of the flippin' range, so wouldn't worry too much about that if I were him. But both players right now are just going to be going to a fairly normal game. We're going up to 3 gateways and a robotics facility from Elfi. We have got the tech lab going down on the barracks now from LucifroN. If you go straight up to those medevacs, you will likely be seeing a stim first coming up from him as well, since that takes just a little bit longer to research. And an SCV saying hello to that zealot outside the main base, but he is not going to be going as far as to give him a friendly handshake. 3 gateways now complete, and we have got an observer being made from Elfi at the moment. We can see one is already its way across the field, so that second observer will be able to give him a little bit more flexibility. The first observer will fly over the main base, just double check what the tech is, and maybe keep a watchful eye over this ramp for when LucifroN decides to move out with his army, or maybe check for a timing on the third base or something like that. And that way, that frees up the second observer here to maybe go for a little bit of just reconnaissance on the army movements in general, etc. Oh, and I'm going to rescind what I said just now. I swear I saw a second observer being produced here, but it probably got cancelled or something. Because, and yeah, he went straight into the robotics base. So only one observer out on the field for Elfi. I swear I saw a second one, but I could simply be mistaken. Apologies about that. And he instead is just going to be positioning the one observer. He sees that the third base has been taken, so this observer is now going to be used just to check on the location of the army. He can spot that the destructible rocks here have only just started being taken out. So that could be a possibility for some sort of timing if he had the army to spare. But what Elfi is going to be doing behind this actually is just grabbing his third base, knowing that LucifroN is going to try and get his third mining as quickly as possible right now. And as a direct result of that, he's not going to be pushing forward with any sizable army composition in the next minute or two. Now we do have the Forge coming out once again. Colossus production has now started. And Elfi is really looking to macro up off the back of this. Extended thermal lance is about not very far complete, about a quarter at the moment, but he should be able to finish that in time for any sort of aggression popping out from LucifroN. We have got the stim now about to complete here. Combat shields a while away, and we have 2 tech labs and just a single reactor, so no double reactor on those barracks in this particular game. The first 2 medevacs are about to pop out. Both gases immediately being taken out at the third base location here for Elfi, and this observer is just in such a good position, spotting exactly the composition of LucifroN at the moment, where he wants to move out. He's also able to see the upgrades for his Terran opponent as well, while the army is just standing here. He's on 0-0 with 1-1 about to complete. That's not going to be too much of a worry right now, since both sides are just busy grabbing that army as opposed to those upgrades. The second Forge, though, is now going down for Elfi, and we do have a +1 ground armor on the way. So presumably weapons will be popping out of this Forge, and a Twilight Council immediately getting put down to hopefully coincide with that. So that he can start 2-2 as quickly as possible. That SCV getting met with a hail of fire, followed by getting burned to a crisp by that Colossus there. Not going to be too appreciative of that. We have got an observer now moving out to check out this army. Does LucifroN spot that little shimmer on his screen that is the observer? And once it's staying still, it's actually a lot harder to spot. It's much easier to spot when it's moving, or if you move your camera in like this. Notice how the observer becomes that much more visible if you do that. But of course, you don't always have time to check that kind of thing out. LucifroN may end up stimming and spotting that, but for now, he's just going to be sending Marine up to the third base location of Elfi there. And he will be able to verify that the third base is up and mining. And this Marine at least is going to die a happy death, because he is on all of the happy drugs at the moment. That stim coming in very useful indeed to hopefully anesthetize the fact that he is currently being ripped limb from limb by gigantic laser beams. More barracks being produced at the third base now for LucifroN. That's going to take up to a healthy total. A lot more back in the main base. 5 here, and all already with add-ons. We also have double starport Viking production as well to potentially counter this Colossus play coming out of Elfi. He's still continuing to produce Colossus, but he has now started Storm and is currently thinking about going for that high Templar style switch that we actually saw in game number 1 as well. 10 gateways down in the main base at the moment, with more buildings on the way as well. So Ghosts and Vikings coming out. We have Templar and Colossi popping out for our Protoss player as well. So both sides looking to go up to their ideal late game compositions. And that means that we're actually going to have a pretty even late game coming out of these guys here. LucifroN opting to move out right now. 1-1 has completed for his bio. No upgrades yet on the Vikings, and this poor Zealot is getting chased down. He's wondering what he has to do to catch a break, and the answer is get warped back to Ire. So he promptly does that. A scan to check out the composition, sees the High Templar there, sees the Zealot, sees the Colossi. 1-1 is also complete for Elfi. Is LucifroN going to use this as an opportunity to move out across the map? It looks like it. He has a lot more reinforcement, including the Ghost coming in here. So LucifroN now has those EMPs at his disposal. Good scan, picking off the Observers now. And Elfi is going to have to assume a more defensive position now. He doesn't have the exact timing on when this push is coming in. We have personal cloaking coming out for the Ghost, which should be ready in just over a minute's time, just under a minute now from LucifroN. And Elfi is going to have to be so wary about potential cloaked Ghosts coming up and just EMPing the entire army. Do we have an Observer out on the field? No Observer, so cloaked Ghosts are basically going to rule the day here. And that might be a little bit of a worrying sign for Elfi. We'll wait and see. LucifroN now at 200 supply. Elfi at 172. Triple Guardian Shield now up. A couple of EMPs go down before cloaking is complete. He still needs about 15 seconds before cloak is finished, but LucifroN doesn't care. He's going to honey badger it right in here, and every single Colossus getting taken down by these Vikings. Basically, before the main engagement started, only one completed long enough to actually become part of that engagement, and that's going to be enough. Elfi did not get a good engagement. GG, and LucifroN wins the series 2-1. The Spanish Armada, LucifroN and Vortex will meet in round number 2 of the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice Qualifier.